Welcome to Frost and Sullivan's Growth Podcast, where we unpack the strategies, technologies, and growth opportunities shaping industries around the world. In this episode, we are looking at one of the most valuable and most underused assets inside the connected vehicles industry: voice of customer data. Automakers are already collecting billions of data points every day through sensors, connectivity platforms, and digital cockpits. But according to Frost and Sullivan's latest voice of customer analysis on in-car services and features in the US, the data with the most influence on 2026 growth strategy isn't telemetry at all. It's coming directly from what car buyers are telling OEMs they want, what they're willing to pay for, and how satisfied they are once they have it. To help us unpack what that data reveals and what OEMs should be doing with it, I'm joined by a Frost and Sullivan growth expert. Thanks for joining us. Let's start with the basics. What exactly does voice of customer research measure, and why is it becoming such a priority for OEMs right now?
Voice of Customer, or VOC, is a structured way of capturing what consumers actually think about a product category, not what companies assume they think. In the connected vehicles industry, that means mapping consumer awareness of features available through over-the-air updates, willingness to pay at the category level, expectations around what should come standard versus what should be unlockable, and direct feedback from people already using features on demand. Frost & Sullivan's recent study on in-car services in the US pulled all of this together, covering everything from OTA awareness through vehicle ID and infotainment screens to ownership expectations across hardware, software, and combination features. For OEMs operating in a software-defined, subscription-oriented industry, this is quickly becoming a core competitive advantage. Product, commercial, and growth strategy built on actual consumer preference tends to outperform strategy built on internal assumptions.
The analysis points to three strategic imperatives shaping how OEMs are approaching connected platforms. Walk us through those.
The first is disruptive technologies, specifically OTA updates. These are moving well beyond software patching. OEMs with strong OTA infrastructure are treating every release as a consumer engagement moment, an opportunity for feature activation, FOD upselling, and platform loyalty across the vehicle's life. The second is innovative business models. Features on demand and subscription architectures are converting one-time vehicle purchases into multi-year digital revenue relationships. The VOC data backs this up directly. 78% of US consumers show a willingness to pay for connected features after purchase. That's a real foundation for recurring revenue, provided OEMs design go-to-market timing and offers around it. The third is competitive intensity. Premium and new energy vehicle platforms are showing the highest FOD conversion rates, and that's raising expectations across every vehicle line. Mainstream OEMs that hold back on building competitive connected service ecosystems risk losing ground to brands that have already conditioned buyers to expect ongoing digital value.
So it's less about simply having the technology and more about how deliberately OEMs are using it to shape the customer relationship.
That's the core of it. The infrastructure enables the strategy, but the strategy determines whether it pays off.
Let's get into the consumer data itself. What stood out most from the survey?
A few numbers really define where OEMs should be focusing. Nearly 80% of US consumers surveyed rated safety features as essential or desirable, which makes ADAS the strongest entry point for FOD adoption. That's a category consumers already understand the value of, so the challenge is less about convincing them and more about pricing and delivery. Satisfaction data is just as telling. 84% of past FOD purchasers report being very or extremely satisfied with their experience. That's a strong signal that early activation's retention, not just a one-time transaction. Beyond safety, car tracking apps and remote access are emerging as high-interest categories for building ongoing digital relationships with owners. And in-car payments are turning into something closer to a commerce platform. Fuel, parking, and retail transactions through the dashboard are starting to generate transaction-level fees and partnership revenue for OEMs, not just convenience for drivers.
With all this data available, how should OEMs actually be applying it to their growth strategy?
Three areas stand out. First, product prioritization. VOC data ranks features by consumer appeal and willingness to pay, which helps direct R&D spend toward the ADAS and safety capabilities buyers already value most. Second, subscription architecture design. Understanding what consumers expect to come standard versus what they'll accept as unlockable is shaping pricing structures that protect brand trust and reduce churn, rather than frustrating buyers with features that feel like they should already be included. Third, segment-level calibration. Preferences differ meaningfully across premium, EV, fleet, and practical use buyers. That's letting OEMs build targeted offers for each group without compressing margins across the board. That's a useful framework for turning consumer sentiment into something OEMs can act on. As we close out, what's the bigger takeaway here for the connected vehicles industry? The connected vehicles industry in the US is generating more consumer intelligence than at any point in automotive history. The OEMs building durable growth advantages are the ones systematically collecting that intelligence and acting on it, not just storing it. U.S. consumers are genuinely ready to engage with, pay for, and advocate for in-car digital services. That happens when those services are built around what buyers actually want, priced to reflect what they value, and delivered in a way that earns trust from the very first activation.
That's a strong place to leave it. Thank you for walking us through this.
Thank you. Voice of customer data isn't a research exercise sitting on a shelf. Used well, it's a direct input into product roadmaps, pricing, and where OEMs choose to compete next.
Thanks for joining us on Frost & Sullivan's Growth Podcast. For access to our research, competitive benchmarking, and best practice frameworks, visit frost.com or email us at hello@frost.com. We'll be back soon with more conversations to help you stay clear-headed, future-ready, and growth-focused.